Morning, everyone. It's Joe Waxman, and I'm back with another astrology mini reading. This morning, I want to look at renowned artist Vincent Van Gogh, and he happens to be one of my favorites. He's a lot of people's favorite because he's just so good, such a wonderful painter. And I've always loved his work. I've seen it in museums. So let's get to it. Share my screen. All right, Vincent Van Gogh, 30th of March, 1853, 11 a.m., Zundert, Netherlands. I've been to the Netherlands, interesting place. Holland. It kind of feels like Van Gogh a little bit. Anyway, Van Gogh, exalted sun in Aries in the 10th house is a very prominent place for the sun because it's exalted at 10 degrees, is 939. So this is highly exalted, it's just before the prime exaltation degree. And in Aries, Aries is action oriented. The sun loves to be in Aries because it gives it power. The sun is all about the ego, about the identity, about the kingly star of our whole personality. It represents consciousness, the soul. It's the being. It's our most essential beingness. You know, if we're to try to point to who we are in our core, the sun would most represent that, right? And in Aries, it rules Leo, but in Aries, it just gains that strength that the sun wants, because it's all about, the sun is all about the self, really, because it's at the core of our being. So it's all about the self. And in Aries, it just gains that directional strength, that core initiative action, the ability to be decisive and to be firm. We don't want a mushy sun. That's why it doesn't do so well in Libra. Libra is the sign of relationships, and it's always thinking about, you know, fairness and balance, but it makes the sun kind of mushy, right? We want a decisive sun. We want other things to be more balanced and fair, other planets, especially Saturn, Venus, things like that. But the sun, we want decisive action. We can't have a mushy, soft sun, right? And in Aries, it just gains that focus, that action-oriented, charging ahead. You know, you need to put yourself first in life, not in a selfish way, but that's just the way it goes. Like, if you don't take your own interests first, you're really not of service to anyone else, because it's like, you know, if you're giving away all your energy, what good are you? You become useless. It's like a dead battery after a while. You're just giving all your stuff away, and then you just can't do anything. And it just becomes weak. Like, you know, a soft, mushy sun can just be like a people pleaser. Yes, a yes man or a yes woman, just saying yes to everyone, but lacking integrity and not really meaning it. And then it just doesn't work very well. So decisive action is very strong here with Vincent Van Gogh. And in the 10th house too, my God, this is the most visible place. Like, super prominent, visible, you know, great integrity, great decisive action. Now you might be wondering, well, he didn't really, you know, gain recognition while he was alive. That's due to another reason, which I'll get to. But we know that he did gain recognition because he's famous. I mean, Vincent Van Gogh, he's one of the most famous artists of all time. His sun is ruling the second house cusp in Leo. And this shows his values, his self-worth, his ability to make money, which at the time was not great, but overall, massive wealth, because he just didn't live long enough. And we'll get to that. But this is his value. So we see that here, that he valued career success and being visible and being recognized and working hard towards his goals, right? He was an artist, and he was a decisive artist. He knew. He just had faith in himself when nobody else did. And he's, look, I'm an artist and I can do this, you know. And he had this relationship with his brother, Theo, who's his younger brother. And he relied on Theo a lot. and Theo was willing to help him out. And they had a really nice relationship, and Theo gave him money. I studied Van Gogh in art school, so I know a little bit about him. But anyway, his self-worth depends on his success. So even though he wasn't very successful in his lifetime, he valued success a lot, and he valued hard work, and he valued achievement. You know, this is the house of Capricorn originally in the natural zodiac, so he's very achievement oriented. But his self-esteem and self-worth did suffer from lack of recognition because, you know, up until he died, he was not recognized. Very little recognition, unlike Picasso and unlike some other artists. Picasso had huge recognition right from the beginning. But nonetheless, this is what he valued, and this is where he got his value. And he was a hard worker, always striving to be the best, to be recognized, and all that. Now we know that he had mental illness, right? And his moon is in Sag, and that's not bad. That's not the problem. And his moon was conjunct Jupiter, and that's fantastic for the moon. That's not a problem at all, because we look at other great artists who had this, you know, Kurt Cobain, Jimi Hendrix, Jimmy Page. And I know what you're thinking, well, oh, 2 out of 3 of those, they died young, Jimi Hendrix and Kurt Cobain. Yeah, but that was for different reasons. It wasn't for Jupiter conjunct moon. That's a great aspect, because it's huge for the emotional nature, for creativity, because the moon has a lot to do with the creative aspect. It greatly expands it. It's just a wonderful aspect. And Jupiter here is in Sag, so Jupiter is super powered. It's super powerful, benefiting this moon. The problem is not Jupiter and moon. That gave him tremendous. That added to the beauty of his art, because moon is relating to the emotional impact, the emotions that he's pouring into it, and Jupiter is expanding those tremendously and benefiting them. It's this south node that's really troublesome, because south node conjunct moon is very, very turbulent when a person's young. Creates a lot of emotional ups and downs, highs and lows, lefts and rights, ins and outs. It's just crazy and chaotic, because what the south node represents is something that we've brought in from a past life. Supposedly, that's the way we characterize it. Whether you believe in past lives or not is irrelevant. How it plays out practically is that when a person is young, the south node is active and it's playing itself out, whatever its indications are. Here we have Sagittarius and 6th house, which I haven't talked about 6th house, but we'll get to. So what it's doing here is bringing up, it's activating the moon when he's young, making the moon very turbulent, very emotional, right? And we can see all the, like, he suffered from depression and mental illness throughout his life. And he didn't live long enough. If he had lived long enough, his mind, his moon, his emotions would have settled down a lot, because what happens after the age of 42, in the 30s, but especially after 42, the south node, the north node activates and the south node detaches. And what this creates is that when the south node detaches from the moon, this creates, it not only settles down the emotional turbulence, it creates incredible mental refinement, right? Because this is where he's almost like intuitively knowing things, intuitively grasping, like there's a hidden secret, almost like spiritual knowledge. And south node conjunct the moon is often very psychic. You'll find the most psychic people with south node conjunct moon, whether you believe it or not. That's the fact. You can go to, like, you know, pick a handful of, you know, find all the psychics. A lot of them will have south node conjunct moon. And even if they're not psychic, they have very refined intuition, very refined thinking, very refined minds. People with south node conjunct moon are very, very good thinkers. Incredible intuition. They just have this knowing Their moon is like supercharged, that they live through the emotional turbulence to get to older age. When they're young, they're very, it's chaotic, and they can suffer mental illness. Plus, this is the sixth house. This is the house of health and illness. Moon here is turbulent anyway, because it's in the house of service, it's in the house of daily routines, and it's in the house of health and illness. It's that in the house of conflict. So it brings a lot of conflict to the mind. And being so turbulent, it's just going all over the place. And he doesn't know what's going on. He doesn't know astrology. He doesn't know it's going to get better. But it's very, so and it's South Node conjunct Jupiter. And I have South Node conjunct Jupiter. South Node conjunct Jupiter is a wonderful aspect too. Jupiter can withstand the turbulence of South Node. It's not all like Moon, because Jupiter is not emotional. But South Node conjunct Jupiter makes a person very wise. I don't mean to toot my own horn, but it brings a lot of knowledge. Jupiter's wisdom, right? And the older you get, the more you get into your North Node, then you get this really solid foundation of Jupiter, of this wisdom, of this knowing, where you just know things. You become very Jupiterian, right? And that's one of the reasons I have an intuitive grasp of astrology and a lot of other things. But he would have been so wise had he lived longer, because this Jupiter is in Sagittarius, and the moon, like, my gosh, had the guy lived long enough, he would have been such, I mean, he was already a gift and a blessing to humanity, but even more so, he just would have been this fountain of wisdom and insight and clarity, and the spiritual leader even. And he was so compassionate and heartfelt. Like, you could just feel that from his paintings. And that was very much seen here. There are other indications of that, which I'm going to get to, but this is very big. This is huge for what he brought, the spirit, the emotional impact that he brought to his art, right? And the moon here and Jupiter are looking at the 12th house of creativity, which is in Gemini. Very creative. Gemini's rule skills of the hands. 12th house is creative. He would have been, his art would have changed a lot, because it would have been less turbulent, chaotic, painful, and it would have been taken on a much more creative, spiritual hue. Much more, it would have gone more into the abstract, more into the 12th house, realm of imagination. The imagination would have been greatly enhanced had he lived long enough. But all right, let's move on. Okay, Ascendant in Cancer. Moon rules the Ascendant, so his whole being is going into the 6th house. 6th house is a house of conflict. Again, it's a lot of nervousness. It's a lot of, he probably loves small animals, because that's also indicated here. But it's just like a lot of critical mental activity with the moon here and his Ascendant Lord here. And he was very emotional, very kind-hearted. Cancer ascendants are very gentle, soft on the surface. Their way of interacting with the world is very emotional and kind and motherly, and it's a very nice ascendant. It's a very nice, well-liked ascendant. Cancer ascendants are usually very well-liked, because they just have this very nice way about them. Let's see, what else? Very strong career success, because again, Aries is in 10th house. Although his 10th house cusp is in Pisces, creative, right? 9th, so making him more philosophical. 9th sign, 10th house cusp in the 9th sign, so very philosophical. But look here, we have this classic combination for artists, musicians, passionate types of Venus conjunct Mars. Venus is exalted. Actually, this might be exalted to the degree of highest exaltation. I didn't check that before, but I think it's 27 or 28. Super, super strong Venus. Venus rules the arts and creativity and beauty, right? And it's benefiting this Mars incredibly. And Mars is, well, it's ruling that, I mean, it's the 10th sign here. It's not ruling a house cusp, but it's ruling the 5th house of creativity, right? Here's another fame-giving house, along with the 10th, the 7th, and the 1st. 5th is Leo's original house in the natural zodiac. So it's a house of drama, of creativity, of children that didn't really pertain to Van Gogh, but fun and games and play and just general creativity. It's just a confidence. It's just a good, very good house, great for recognition and everything. Here it is in the 10th house cusp, conjunct highly exalted Venus, super powerful, super passionate. We completely feel his passion in his paintings, like so much passion, right? Yeah, I mean, this is like extremely powerful along with this, right? And a square, we get a square here. It's a little bit, I mean, it's not super tight, but that creates the intensity. And if you look at a lot of his paintings, they really are intense. Like the intense, he had this wispy quality where he would go to the point with a lot of like his flowers and his trees, and they were wavy, but they were like pointed, right? And if you really get into like, if you really look at his art, there's this tense quality that's represented here in this square. Also, this is adding to his emotional turbulence because it's a wide square, but it's still squaring the moon. And squares to the moon are difficult aspects, right? And his moon was already having trouble being in the 6th house, conjunct the south node so tightly, that this was just furthering the intensity of his mental anguish, right? That's a, you know, for somebody who's on the edge, it doesn't take a lot. If he had a really well-balanced, stable moon, this would be nothing, right? It's not a problem. But for somebody who's already emotionally unbalanced, then squares can do a lot to further imbalance them. So it's in his Mars. The Mars is the hard part, not so much the Venus. This is the Venus is really, you know, that's probably really good for because just in general, moon, his inner emotions, and Jupiter to the Venus helps his painting, helps us get his emotions because it's still a contact. But the Mars is adding aggression, adding this aggressive quality, right? And one time he cut off his ear, right? That's Mars. Mars rules knives and weapons, square to the moon. I don't know what would be the ear in astrology. Maybe it's the moon. I don't know. Maybe it's Jupiter. I don't know. Anyway, Mars rules knives and cutting. So that's the square to Mars here. Speaking of squares, Mars is also square the nodes, and so is the MC. MCs tightly square the nodes, and we just saw that with Sylvia Plath. Squares to the nodes show a destiny. They show a certain kind of destiny. Interesting that both Sylvia Plath and Vincent Van Gogh had this square to the nose, and they both died young, and they were both achieved far greater. Well, Sylvia Plath did achieve recognition while she was alive, but far more after her death. So this shows a certain destiny, and MC shows fame recognition. So it's like, okay, this is a fame-giving indicator right here, certainly. Nodes square the MC, I'd say that's, and the Mars too shows a certain destiny when it's squared, when it's conjunct the MC. Anyway, super potent, you know, square this, even though it's square, it's still a contact to the moon, south node, Jupiter, giving expression to the MC, to the visibility, to the, you know, public visibility. You know, making his emotions visible through his paintings, through his art in the world. Okay, now the other amazing thing about Van Gogh is that he has this Mercury here in Aries, and Mercury in Aries, big deal, 10th house, big deal. Well, Mercury rules skills of the hands, okay? And so you need to have really well-developed skills of the hands in order to be a skilled draftsman artist, okay? But so what, how, what am I saying with this? Well, number one, it's trine to this moon south node Jupiter here, and that's great, again, because we're getting two contacts here. But what else? Well, let's look at the declination and speed of the planets. Okay, nothing really outrageous in these, and the declination. The nodes are just about out of bounds. I don't really know that that's significant. I haven't come across any indication that that means much, and we don't see any stationary indications here, but let's look at the speeds. Oh, look at that. Mercury is at 11 minutes and 13 seconds. 11 minutes, 13 seconds. Well, when I looked at the ephemeris, it was 1 day off stationary, 1 day. So Mercury moves so fast that it's not going to indicate that it's stationary when it's a day off. And a stationary Mercury would be 4 minutes, and this is 11 minutes. And so it's still very, very slow. Okay, and this is significant. And you know how else I know? My Mercury is at 17 minutes. His 11, mine's 17. So mine's a little bit faster. His is a little bit slower. But I was also very good at drawing. Okay, I am a Gemini, but since I was a child, I was very good at drawing. And then my friend in high school, who was born 2 days before me, so his Mercury is even slower. It might even be stationary direct. He not only has incredible guitar hand skills, but he can draw like, he draws like photorealism, basically. Like he can draw realistically. I mean, I can too, to some extent. I don't bother anymore just because it's not where my passion lies. But that's what this shows. It shows incredible skills of the hands, incredible ability to have accuracy and dexterity and skills with the hands, with drawing, with painting. And we know Van Gogh was excellent at his drawing and painting and skills of the hands. Okay, this is so telling, so pertinent to what Van Gogh represents, and it's here in the 10th house. He had so much 10th house stuff, and then the 6th house is making the connection. That's how we know it's a huge part of it. It's trine and square, the two planets. It doesn't need so much to connect to the sun. That's not as important. Where it needs to connect is to this Venus. Mars is also mechanical, technical skills, but especially skills of the hands is Mercury. Mars generally rules the whole body, the whole physical body. So it can be like, Mars can mean like, the way the whole body moves. It's not specifically the hands. So Mars can rule like technical skills in just everything. Mercury is specifically skills of the hands. And here we have out of sign conjunction to Pluto, but it's still there, and it's still influencing this Mercury, making his skills of the hands even more intense. Like there's more this depth. Like he just wanted to like penetrate, like painful, and added a certain darkness too, right? I mean, not only we see the darkness, Cancer Ascendant, which is water ruled, but MC and Pisces, and just Mars in general. And then here with the Pluto, and then we do get, it's not always dark. There's a lot of brightness in his paintings and his art, but he does get dark as well, right? I think the last attributed painting to him is the cornfields with the crows and the dark sky. It's very depressing, very sad. And speaking of his death, it says that he shot himself. Although I watched one documentary or film that was based on his life where supposedly he got shot by somebody else. So we don't really know, but he died of a gun wound. And again, that's similar to him cutting off his beard. That's the Mars here. That's the Mars square the moon. Moon is his ascendant ruler. So whatever is squaring the ascendant ruler is squaring the self. And here this Mars rules violence. Day chart. So Mars is going to be in classical Hellenistic astrology, where he gets the most malefic energy, the malefic force. The squares to the Mars will be the most dangerous thing, the most problematic. And when square to the ascendant lord, which is also the moon, that's problematic. That's dangerous. So yeah, there's that. And then, so we have this Saturn here in the 11th house. And what's that doing? Well, 11th house is career success. 10th house is career. 11th house is the gains from the career, the money you can earn, and the success of your career. And Saturn delays and restricts everything. So with Saturn here, he's not going to achieve career success. I mean, he's going to have a prominent career, which he did. If Saturn were in the 10th house, he would have difficulty figuring his own career out. He wouldn't have this very strong indication that he was going to be an artist from a young age. He knew that, right? And he worked in the arts from a young age. And early on, he knew that he was an artist. If he had Saturn in the 10th house, like I do, he would have had a lot of difficulty finding his career. He had Saturn in the 11th house. The success from the career was delayed. He did not gain recognition early. He did not gain wealth. He did not sell paintings. That's clearly Saturn in the 11th house. His friend circle was small. He was alone a lot of times because his groups and networks, and he just wasn't celebrated. And this is hopes, wishes, and dreams. Had he lived long enough, yes, he would have been, famous for, a long time before his death. But because he died so young, he died 38, he did not live long enough to have Saturn work on his behalf. Saturn lengthens things. So here we see that after his death, tremendous career success, tremendous value to his paintings, to his art, because here we have the earnings from the career, what you can gain from your career, and the success from the career. So Saturn lengthens. So he will be famous for a long time, no doubt, for eternity, even, for a length of life on this, planet, as long as humanity lives. That's what Saturn will do, but it restricts first. Inevitably, it lengthens, right? It extends things. But he did not live long enough to see the other side of Saturn, and it really just limited in his career success. Uranus is also here, and Uranus says that he would have hung out with very strange, unique, rebellious type people, and he did. Gauguin was one of his friends. His brother Theo. By the way, that's Mercury. Elder siblings is Mars, younger siblings is Mercury. And Theo supported him. He was his younger brother. Rules the 4th house cusp, 3rd and 4th. So 3rd would be siblings. And 3rd also brings in skills of the hands, but siblings as well. 4th, roots, early childhood development, home. So he was like, he knew from a young age that he wanted to be an artist because he's bringing that into his career. And the support from his brother, from his career, is seen here. 12th house creativity, seen here. But yeah, he had unusual friends. Very brilliant but unique. And like Gauguin was another one. He's a great painter. Ultimately not as powerful and unique and as prominent and developed as Van Gogh, but great painter in his own right. And if we describe house rulership, it's eighth house. So that's Saturn and Uranus both co-rule the 8th house. So that's bringing ups and downs to his career success as well. So within his life, not only is Saturn, it's 8th house. which is not great for recognition, because it's a house that brings ups and downs, crisis, death and rebirth. So within his lifetime, definitely not good for career success. Good for career, not good for career success. In the ninth house, we have Neptune and Pisces. So his philosophy, his belief system was very spiritual, very creative, very artistic. He believed in the power of the arts, the power of creation, and the power of fantasy and delusion and spirituality. He was, I think, he had a very spiritual side to him, very spiritual quality. And that would have been, had he lived long enough, he would have really brought that to light. He would have gone much deeper into spirituality and the creative, the imaginative side of his painting. I bet his paintings would have taken on a more surrealistic, imaginative, abstract quality, being that North Node is in the 12th house, had he lived long enough. But that's pretty much it. You know, it's very clear, very direct. Van Gogh, incredibly talented person, troubled moon, troubled mind, troubled heart, but you know, that drove the feeling in his paintings, and we get that a lot from these artists who die young. You know, we just get tons of emotional outpour into their creations. I just want to look at his 9 key, which, you know, this was my original astrology that I was brought up with. And when I say brought up with, I literally mean I was raised into astrology by my parents. It's not like I just picked it up on my own. My father is an astrologer. He gives readings, but he doesn't do Western astrology. He does Japanese astrology. So I was raised into this. So when I say I've been studying this my whole life, that's not just me, you know, being wishful thinking. I was learning about this stuff when I was a kid. But anyway, he's a 3-4-4, and 3-4-4 is very emotional, very aesthetically oriented. And I'm not going to read the whole thing. Michelangelo was another one who was a 3-4-4 as well. But I'll just read the qualities. Foresightful, tender, creative, confident, sensitive, evasive, impatient, emotional. And the people who were also 3-4-4: Michelangelo, John Tyler, Harry James, Eugene McCarthy, Gregory Peck, Shirley Jones, Alan Arkin, Lynn Redgrave, and Eddie Murphy. So that's interesting because it just adds, the reason I'm reading it is because it adds to the same theme of this artistic quality, this emotionality, the sensitivity, the creativity. It's very, 3-4-4 is younger and elder tree. So the energy is very up and expansive, very creative and aesthetic, very emotional, right? So he was highly emotionally driven, and yeah, that's it. He died young, 38, I think, and he was very sad and depressed. His last words were something like, "The sadness will never end," or something like that. Beautiful, highly creative, highly potent soul that just did not live long enough, unfortunately. But, you know, he gave the world tremendous gifts, and who's to say he didn't live long enough? I mean, maybe that was his soul contract. Maybe that was all he was destined to live, you know, and he gave us tremendous things. So I love Van Gogh. I still think he's one of the greatest artists of all time, you know, right up there with anyone, with Picasso, with Leonardo da Vinci. Yeah, one of the best. All right, guys, that's pretty much it. So if you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and go to my website, macroastrology.com, to book a reading. I offer mini readings like this and also full readings where I'd really dive deep into your chart, research every little aspect, and give you a lot of time and information. Okay, so I will see you next time. Thanks. Bye.